All right, guys. Let me turn this off here. One sec. I'll be there. I'm working on some stuff here. There we go. Got to turn this off here. This is not a weekly live. This is a YouTube live, and we are live. Here we are. Just sorry, a little bit late. Had a couple things to do. I'm going to try to find. Let me find the comments because I don't have the comments on right here. There we go. Live. Now I see all you guys in here. We are set. Ready to go. Ready to chit chat and talk about a lot of dog stuff. I'm glad. Glad you guys are here. Is the audio okay, guys? You can hear me okay? You can see me okay? Got a little accent light on the background. That was Alan's idea. Hope you like it. And wondering if I should move the camera up a little bit. How does that look acceptable at all, or seem to be sitting too high? Let me move the camera. One sec. Stay there. Just like I always say to you, I'm always trying to up the game, to make it a little bit better and to increase the quality. So I know you're not here to hear about that. So let's start with your questions. Thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for everything. Thanks for your support, your friendship. If you have not joined my website, robertcabral.com yet, that is a good idea because a lot of great lessons up there. A good lesson that I just posted yesterday on timing corrections and rewards in marker training. I think that's something that's really overlooked, not talked about a lot. And I'm clearly at fault for that too, because I have not talked about that much. So in this week's lesson, I talk about it's a really good lesson. I mean, it's a really long lesson. It really talks about how we want to time things, how we want to make sure the dog understands the correction, as well as the reward to form that cohesive bond of training. And training is a bond that we form with the dog. It's not a one-arm thing. It's something that dogs love to do, done properly, and it's something we should really, use as an asset. It's not really a dictator thing that we're telling the dog what to do. It's really it's a relationship we form, and we form it through training. Sometimes we form relationships with friends through dancing, through clubs and stuff like that. With the dog, it's the only way we form it. So I haven't touched on any of the questions yet. So if you've put a question on here and I haven't talked about it yet, I'm sorry, I missed it. Okay, thank you. The audio sounds fine. Thank you, Sawblade. I was messing around because I've got my light here and I was trying to put a diffuser on a softbox and it didn't fit. So that's why I'm a little bit late. But all things being said, we're here. I'm here now. I'm ready to rock and roll. And let's get started with your question. So let's see. I'm going to just randomly go through here and pick up questions. So I'm going to go here, Leora first, because that's the last one on the list. So if you put a question on, please repost it because I'll probably miss it. Leora's first question of the day. My 12 to 13-week-old puppy pulls like crazy on a walk. We don't have a yard and have to walk her. How can we teach her to stop pulling like a maniac? And the way to do that is you're going to have to take her to a park or something. You have to take her someplace to teach her what we call leash pressure. And leash pressure means to get a reward for not pulling on a leash. And with puppies at that age, that 12 to 13-week age, they're just in a hurry to get somewhere. So using a long line is always the best way. There's videos on here on YouTube as well as on my membership section that talk about how to properly introduce a long line and to get the dog's attention back to you. The more exciting you are for the dog, the less likely they are to try to pull away from you, and the more likely they are to push to be closer to you. So that's the first thing I would suggest, and I would try that. So, and if your question doesn't have a question mark in front of it, I'm probably not going to get to it, but I'm see Antonio here. I will say I will do this. Remember Leora's question here? Do you see how it has 2 question marks in front of it? That's the code word. You want to know how to get your question answered? That's how you get it even looked at. Antonio says, what can I do to stop my dog's biting habit? That I don't know. That's a very vague question. I need you to I need to be more specific. Is it a puppy? What is it? Give me more information. Craig, will you discuss best way to overnight your 8-week-old puppy in a crate? We have spent the last few days rewarding the pup for going into the crate, but how do we go to the next level? Well, remember something, with an 8-week-old puppy, it's never really overnight. It's really just a matter of, 3-4 hours until you have to let the dog out again. So you don't have to worry about that whole long duration. The dog should be comfortable being in the crate for 2, 3, 4 hours, pretty much from the get-go. You start feeding your dog and they put treats in there. I've solved it relatively quickly, like 45 minutes, by just sitting there and letting the dog kind of bark their way through it, and don't give them attention, don't give them any play until they settle down. When they settle down, that's when you can start rewarding and taking the dog out again. Trinidad, that's pretty cool. All right, I like seeing that. Okay, here's a question with a question mark in front of it. Amanda says, when sitting with my dog, she tries to use her front teeth and nibble me. I always make her stop, but what is this behavior? I feel like I'm being groomed. Well, it could be a multitude of things. Could be an affectionate thing, could be a nervous twitch the dog has. But what you want to do is you want to discourage the behavior, right? You want to make sure the dog understands that that's not acceptable. A lot of times people let dogs get away with stuff because they feel like it's cute. It's, I don't want to hurt the dog's feelings, but you just need to pull away from the dog's mouth and say, hey, knock it off. Or push your hand into the dog's mouth a little bit and make it a little uncomfortable. But in either case, it's not a good habit. It's not something I really like to encourage. Lilia. Sorry, my eyesight's not great. If we correct the dogs multiple times for a command they know and are still in the heavy rewarding phase, do we still give a food reward when they eventually comply, or just verbal praise? Great question. I talk about that in this week's video. And the issue is, you don't want to do too hard. Like I always say, it's not a correction as like a no. It's kind of like a nope, that's not what I want. If you watch the video this week, I'm going to try to cut a short version of it so that you can see it here on YouTube. But it's an important aspect to think about. But once the dog finally gets it, yeah, you're going to have to reward it because you're going to have to mark that behavior. So good question. Let's see here. I'm just taking them as I see them with question marks. How do we test if our puppy is aggressive and needs medication? 5-month-old Labradoodle. I just did your test for you. He doesn't need medication. 5-month-old Labradoodle is not going to need that. Donald, good to see you in here. Okay, CMM. My 5.5-month-old Labradoodle is great most of the time, but has spurts of aggression. We train him with food 3 times a day, training, fetch with ball 10 minutes, 5 minutes of obedience, randomly he tries to bite me. That's because he's a puppy. Don't go to this place where you think your puppy is aggressive. It's just, I hate when I see that. I hate when people even verbalize that because it's a puppy. Puppies are going to bite. That's the way they work. If I'm skipping over your question, it means there's not a question mark in front of it like Kayleen's here. If I don't know trustworthy dogs, would it be okay to socialize by bringing on-leash dog walking by into my house while my puppy is in his crate? Dogs I know are treat motivated, just not trustworthy. Yeah, if the dog is on a leash and your puppy's in a crate, your job really is to introduce your puppy to only safe dogs. That's it, not, dangerous dogs or anything like that. That's really, really bad. So don't be irresponsible, please. Greg. Hello from the UK. Massive fan on your video podcast. I have a 9-month-old male German Shepherd. My wife is pregnant. Do you have any advice for getting him ready for the baby's arrival next year? Great question. Thanks for watching the videos. I have a different approach with dogs. I don't do the whole letting them sniff the baby's blankets and all that stuff thing. For me, the baby comes in, it's part of me. You're not allowed to touch it. You're not allowed to play with it. There's nothing. The baby is in my arms, just like when I introduced Goofy and Maya to Boz. I had Boz in my arms. Boz was very delicate. And so those dogs saw that there was no messing around. There's no playing with Boz. There's none of that. And now they're really great. So when you introduce the dog, you got to be careful more in the phase. First of all, don't leave your baby, laying on the floor in front of your puppy. But more importantly than that, you need to make sure that the dog has immense structure. The dog can go to a place, and the dog, when the baby comes, the dog's already sensing something. He's smelling that, and you should, focus on good, solid obedience, lots of rewards. So that's it's a seamless phase from where you are to the baby coming. The dog should be, structured, integrated, a lot of interactions, and keep everything as normal as possible. When that baby comes and starts screaming, it's one thing. It's a whole different thing when that baby starts waddling around on the ground, and that's going to be, at that year-old marker. So that's where you really want to be careful. But good training will, you can get the dog around anything. Tristan, he had to use leash corrections when my 6-month-old Malpup is aggressive. He sometimes snaps when being put in his crate if he doesn't want to go and lay down yet. Be careful on overdoing corrections. It's a 6-month-old puppy. I'm going to make this bigger so it's all the way along the bottom so even I can read it. The puppy's just being a little rambunctious. Overcorrecting a puppy, often a dog that's either, very nervy and very sensitive to stimulation, or a dog that'll revert to aggression. So, it's a puppy. You have to think about it like a child. How hard would you correct a child? That's really important. Please, I'm going to give you this one, albino, but you've got to put a question mark in front of it. How do I build confidence in Dobermans that's skittish of loud sounds and random things that are out of place? Well, you got to figure out why the dog is this neurotic. If the dog is just a nervy dog from a bad breeding, and I don't mean a bad breeding, I mean like a weak breeding of temperament, then it's going to be almost impossible to fix, right? It's just going to be, you're going to kind of manage it, you're going to get the dog through it. A solid, well-bred, nerve-solid dog is a dog like Dwayne, who's just nothing bothers him. Gunshots don't bother him. It makes him excited, if anything. Sounds don't bother him. So if you have a dog that has these issues, you can kind of expose them to things like that through games, through positive interaction, through playing tug or feeding and stuff like that, so the dog gets more and more used to it. But if the dog has a severe underlying nerve issue, super, super, super hard. Okay, Danielle. How to stop whining before a walk. I can get them calmed down before we go, but they get amped up when they see me put my shoes on, get the leashes, etc., and start to whine. I have 3 dogs. Super hard to do with 3 dogs, right? I mean, you guys got some tough questions here today. What I would really focus on is getting the dogs to sit in a place, and you go put your shoes on, you do your things, and when they're calm, one by one, call them and go with you. These are things that take a lot of time. I mean, I know you guys come to me and you have, a quick question, like, hey, I got a question for you. It's not a matter of solving a problem. It's a situation of trying to figure out how to manage it, how to get the dog used to things. That's really the important part of training. And I noticed it a lot in my private sessions, that people come to me and I can get a dog to do something, right? But that's just simply through hook or crook, right? I'm just either kind of luring the dog into it or blocking the dog's ability to not do what I want him to do. To get them to do it willfully and perfectly takes a long time. I can tell you with Maya, Maya's been a challenge. My whole time having her, she was very, very hard to train, very obstinate, very nervy on things. And, I just kept doing it because I just put it off, and I just said, well, I'm not going to get rid of her, and I'm not going to not train her. So I put it off as far as I didn't think she would ever get it, but I kept doing it just for the sake of doing it. And eventually she got it, right? It's just, if you kind of keep going, the dog will eventually get it. That's really, really it. You got to just be super, super patient. So same thing with whining, you just got to get it out of the habit. Noemi says, how can I do to make my 9-month-old Swiss Shepherd to love the ball and tug? He is great treats lover. I would get a Lotus ball. That's it. The Lotus ball, any kind of treat dispensing toy, put some treats in there, teach them that there's a treat in there, and you'll increase the dog's drive just based on nature of their drive being high for treats. Alex says, my dog gets really scared every time the central AC or heat goes on. How should I deal with this? Nothing you can do, right? I mean, when it goes on, what are you going to do? Maybe you can turn it on and off like 100 times or so. You'll burn out your air conditioning, but you'll get your dog used to it. The more the dog experiences it, I mean, the question here would be, how often has the dog seen this, right? How often has the dog experienced this? Is he just coming into your home and this is a new thing, or has he seen this over and over, and now suddenly if he's just getting skittish on it now because of something happened, then you've got to figure out what happened and fix that. If it's something that he's had a nerve issue on before, then you've got to figure out what that nerve issue was. I'm just moving here. So I always get this comment about the picture in the back. I have a picture of a dead zebra on my wall. It's a picture of a lion who killed a zebra, and I call it the prayer because I rolled up on this lion in Africa. It's totally irrelevant to anything we're talking about with dog training, but just so I should know that I watched this lion in this kind of a sorrow. And there's an old story about the lion and the zebra in Africa. Look it up. It's an African proverb. But I think that, he had to eat, and therefore he had to kill it. But I saw this kind of like sorrow in both of these animals' eyes. I thought it was I thought it was one of my favorite pictures ever. Okay, Alex. Oops. Okay, I just answered your question, Alex. Okay, Vidmar. How can I give my dog confidence or build it up in him? How can he get some of his own? He's 4 years old and has come a long way since I got him as a rescue. The answer there is, Vidmar, just keep doing what you're doing. That's it. I mean, if he's built more confidence since you got him, then you're doing the right thing, right? Just keep going. It's just, this is like what I said before. It's an idea of patience. Alyssa, I guess you really got, that's smart. Put a lot of question marks. The more likely I see it as a question. I have a 10-month-old puppy who likes to ignore commands. The trainer said it was normal because she has puppy ADD and she will grow out of it in a couple of months. How do I make her mind? Well, I think your trainer gave you the best advice, right? Puppies don't always listen. They get that. I mean, I don't call it ADD, but they just kind of check out. They're immature. They oh, what's going on over here? What's going on over there? And then you kind of lose them for a while. You just got to kind of work through it. Be very patient. Don't be hard on the dog for that. It's just mature. It's a maturity thing, and you can't get a dog to mature until they're ready to mature. Sinan says, I'm probably assuming, my 8-month-old shepherd has submissive urinating condition or excitement. And so this is really common in dogs that are nervy to start with, and it's super critical that you early on, and this is not as early as it could be, but early on, like starting now, don't let anybody meet her who's going to get excited. Oh, puppy, puppy, puppy. None of that. None of it. Your puppy needs to meet people who are super calm, and when she first walks up to him and starts wiggling her tail, the people should ignore her, right? They should completely ignore her. Let her see that everything is fair, everything is chill, everything is easy. By being excited to see the dog, or by petting the dog right away, or by doing any of these things, you're creating more excitement in the dog. The more excitement is caused, the more the muscles, in her lower body get stimulated, so she loses control of her bladder. If that's the case and it keeps going, eventually the puppy it will be a dog that will do this forever. You've got to get it. Bye, honey. Janet's going golfing. And she looks amazing. She looks so pretty just going golfing. Makes me want to play more golf. So the puppy's going to lose more control of those muscles as time goes on. So you need to get the dog to control. Bye, Annie. Control those behaviors so they don't get hardwired. It's a really important thing. Please understand that. Rostam, I'm going to answer this question. Any advice about basic training for an American Akita? A friend of mine just got an Akita, so I'll probably be shooting some videos on that, so you'll see. Natalie says, what are examples of corrections with food aggression or aggression in general? A hand feed, and she's 5-month-old German Shepherd, fine with me, but will snap at my cat or anyone who approaches. Well, 5 months old, you just need to, instead of correcting, what you need to do is counter condition. The dog just needs to see that they're going to get food, and keep the dog's focus on you. Hey, pay attention here. Hey, pay attention here. Because the more you try to correct for this, the more you're going to create a dog that's suspicious of this, and it's going to be problematic. You're going to have a problem with it. Nathan. How would you introduce a 3-year-old male Rottweiler, nice and obedient but not used to kids, to a new baby coming home? Children are, first of all, I'll tell you how I would do it. I would do it by putting the dog in a crate, having the dog on a line, and never letting the dog out of my sight in front of the kid for at least a year. That's it. And the dog would be on strict obedience when the baby's around. The dog would be on a down, the dog would be on a sit, the dog would be in a crate, the dog would be focused on me, the dog would be on a leash, because you don't want to have the dog making a mistake like going, to the baby and playing with the baby or something like that. I would keep it super, super, super strict. Next question here. Omid says, my dog is not good with strangers that talk loudly. What should I do about it? If they're not talking to him for 30 seconds, everything is going to be fine. Tibetan Terrier, 2 years old. Well, what you just answered your own question. If they're not talking to him for 30 seconds, everything is going to be fine. then, get the dog to understand that people, like, just tell people, don't look at my dog, don't touch my dog, don't interact with my dog, don't acknowledge my dog, because you want the dog to know that you're in control. And the first person that people talk to, right, the first being that gets talked to is the one that's in control. So if the very, very first thing a stranger does is come up to you and say, oh, what a cute dog, they're giving the attention to the dog, putting that dog in what we call a primary position. The dog shouldn't be in a primary position. The dog should be in a secondary position. You're in the primary position, right? That's how I would handle it. So, Chris, I have a 13-week-old lab who is very well behaved, but I live with my parents and their Cocker Spaniel, and they can't play. Will this teach him bad habits around other dogs? No. I mean, if anything, it'll teach him structure as to, to be able to let dogs just be without having to play. The worst thing that we teach our dogs is that they can play with any dog they want, right? That's where we get into a big, big problem, because dogs start to think, oh, every dog I see I get to play with. And that's not the case. You don't get to play with every dog you see. You get to play with dogs I tell you can play with. And the reason for that is not that I'm trying to be a dog Nazi, but that I'm trying to make sure that dogs are safe, right? That they only play with a dog that's safe, in a safe environment and all that. So yeah, I think it's actually kind of a good thing for your dog. I think you should be kind of stoked about it. Jeff says, what are your thoughts on Mal German Shepherd mixed from a good breeder? Well, a good breeder wouldn't mix two dogs. I'm going to tell you that right now. So that would be my thing. But a Mal German Shepherd, I mean, either you're going to get the best of both breeds or the worst of both breeds. Take your chances, I mean, the problem with doing these kind of mixes is, what's the lineage? What do they have as the history that they can prove that mix, that breeding is a beneficial mix, is a healthy mix, has a solid temperament. That's what I look for when I look for a breeder. I want to know the last 2 or 3 generations of the parents. I want to know if they've ever bred those two before and what's coming out of that line. That's really important. So again, like I said, a good breeder I don't think would mix those. I don't think would mix any dogs. Nancy Horsenlunger. 6-month-old puppy is not getting desensitization and group training I would have liked due to COVID. Will he be able to catch up at a year or so? Well, he's never going to catch up, right? There's no catch up. It's not like the remedial school of catch up from COVID. He should be getting, I don't know, I don't understand what this nonsense with COVID, why the world is completely shut down. Don't get me started on that one. You should still be able to take your dog out. You should still be able to socialize your dog at a distance with other people. I mean, I can't say anything about COVID, because if I do, I get penalized on the videos. But it's a medical thing for people, right? So you should still be able to walk your dog, and having your dog at a safe distance to other dogs is the #1 most important thing you're going to end up doing. So because of this pandemic, whatever you want to call it, it gives you the ability to have people not run up to you. So, I mean, I actually think it's more beneficial than regular socialization, because we're keeping dogs at a distance. I don't think there's any downsides to this. And by the way, if you guys have not subscribed to this channel, please go out, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you know when I'm going to be on. Because I do these chats regularly, and you want to know when I'm going to be on because you want to get in here early. But be sure to subscribe to this channel. I want to get to 200,000 subscribers in the next few months, and I need all your help. Okay, Jeff says, how can I stop my shepherd from grabbing the leash in his mouth while walking? Well, I'll tell you this, the easy way to do it is to just have your dog carrying something with him the whole time, right? Just if the dog is mouthy, put a dumbbell in his mouth, put a dowel in his mouth, put a plastic bottle in his mouth, so he has something in his mouth. If he's mouthy enough, he's doing it dominantly, he's pulling you along. The way I fix it is I use 2 leashes. I put one on that when he puts in his mouth, the other one gives him a correction, and that's really it. It should sound more complicated than that, shouldn't it? It's not. Dog training is pretty simple. 4-month-old German Shepherd puppy scared of other dogs and loud noises like lawnmowers, leaf blowers, etc. Genetics, or is it just normal puppy behavior? Well, that's a question that I can't tell you, right? I would say probably has something to do with genetics, but I don't know. You'd have to ask the breeder on that, where you got the dog. but it's something that I would definitely try to work through, because it's also, it can be a huge component of prey drive and not, being scared of other dogs. I have a feeling maybe the dog was born, a singleton, like a one puppy, because if it was raised with other puppies, it should not have that issue at all. Bo says, 10-week-old Mally flies at my leg every now and again, otherwise learning to play nice and being handled well. How would you best redirect one biting legs? Bo, you got a Malinois, right? That's it. You got a Malinois. That's what he's going to do. They bite legs, they bite arms. That's what they're trained to, that's what they're bred to do, right? Then we use that breeding, that drive into their training. So, the best you can do is when he does it, go, hey, come on, knock it off. Be calm. Don't stimulate the dog, because that's going to make it worse. But I'm going to say it to you, Bo. Why'd you get a Malinois? Right? That's just what they do. That's just what they do. Poodle Eyes, that's an interesting name there. Do you think a slip lead at the top of the dog's neck is better to control head than a head collar? Yes, for sure. I use a prong collar, but my friend of mine won't, and I want to find her a good alternative. Yeah, absolutely. Don't use a head collar. I mean, the wolfhound that you just saw in last week's video, not yesterday's video, but last week's video, was on a head collar. I just don't like head collar. I know a lot of good trainers like them, and that's where I draw my difference. I just don't like them, personally. Okay, here we go. Joy. Want to start training my 2-year-old Rottweiler on off-leash. How to start and progress? And do you recommend e-collar for off-leash corrections? Love and respect from Beirut. Well, a couple things. First of all, if the dog's 2 years old, you're going to want to start with a long line. Once the long line is introduced and the dog kind of understands it, you can introduce an e-collar with the long line, because it's going to give you the ability to control the dog. If you can control the dog with an e-collar and protect the dog from flighting, right? So the dog gets spooked because you punch the button on the collar, and the dog flights and is gone, you're toast, right? Then you can't get the dog back, and then you've ruined all e-collar training. So when I introduce the e-collar, I always like to use a backup line or a long line to keep the dog focused on that. But that's how I would do it. Rania says, my 5-month-old German Shepherd started peeing and pooping in the crate after no problems. We take her out every 2 hours and she just goes after we put her back in the crate. And the answer to that is, you're kind of setting a precedent. So the dog goes out for 2 hours and learns, I get back in her crate, I go poo. You've got to make the crate smaller so that if she does decide to poo or pee, she's going to be sitting in it for a little bit. But more importantly, you've got to stay out with the dog until the dog does her business. And that's it. Whether it takes 2 minutes or 2 hours, walk the dog, get the dog excited, get the dog moving, and that will really help the dog to understand that, hey, I can't hold it anymore, I gotta go. And after the dog goes outside, then put the dog back in the crate. It's not a hard fix, but it's it's time consuming to get the dog to rethink this. If I've gone by your questions, because there's no question marks on the front of the thing, question. That's a Spanish thing, actually, put the question mark on the front, which I think is quite brilliant. Reina, you're Gutierrez, you're Spanish, so Hispanic, so you understand that, and I like that. We put the question mark there. Hi, Robert, my 1.5-year-old German Shepherd. He's a pretty chill dog, but he reacts to dogs when I walk him. He barks, lunges, growls, but when anyone else walks him, he's fine. What can I do? You, Reina, can teach the dog more structure, more obedience, build a better relationship through training as opposed to through cuddling and baby talking the dog, which I'm not saying you're doing, but you might be. The reason the dog is doing that to you is one of two things. Either he's trying to protect you, right, because he sees you're weak, or he doesn't respect you. Either way, just get on a good obedience path with the dog, and you should be able to solve it. So in this situation, it's not the dog, it's the person walking the dog, which is often the case with dogs. Tristan was wondering if it's a good idea to use leash corrections when my 6-month-old Malpup is aggressive. He sometimes snaps and being put in his crate. You already asked me this question. So you have to rewind and see the answer, and the answer was no. Rory says, Rory here from UK, our 7-month-old German Shepherd is whining in crate only we are eating or sitting down as a family. She gets plenty of training, walks, attention, etc. advice. Thanks. you can put a cover over the crate, put the crate in another room, but the reason the dog is whining is because the dog's trying to be with you. And I don't know if you're giving into that, if you're letting the dog, after the dog whines, you finally just say, oh, forget it, I'm going to take the dog out and, put the dog with me. You might be doing that, right? You might just be doing that. And if you are doing that, you're making the problem worse. That's important to think about. So when a dog whines in a crate, at best, I'm going to cover the crate. Right? I'm never going to let the dog out or even look at the dog or say be quiet or whatever, because anything you do, even if you're saying be quiet or yelling at them or kicking the crate or spraying water, all these stupid things, is just an interaction with the dog. Right? It's giving the dog exactly what they want, which is an interaction. Titan Hound says, is it possible to have a German Shepherd in an apartment? If so, any tips on preventing them from barking in the hallway noises? Yes and no. It's possible to have one apartment. A lot of people do. Tons of people in the cities have German Shepherds, but the dog's probably going to bark at hallway noises. That's it. And I can't give you a better answer than that. Okay, Trailblazer, I'm going to give you this one, but I want you to put a question mark in front of your question. That's the only way I can answer the questions. 1-year-old, 5-month, 90-pound Doberman gets mouthy tantrum when corrected. How to address? It's because the correction is too stimulating for the dog, right? The correction is getting the dog excited, and the correction should really be shutting the dog's excitement down. So if you get really excited in your correction, more than likely you're going to create a dog that's going to fight back against and getting mouthy or getting into a tantrum. Calm corrections, hey, knock it off, really calm. Even when the dog throws a tantrum, stay in a calmer place, and that's it, because you're not going to fight the dog and win. You're just going to create more drive. By the way, 231 people in here in the room right now. It'd be great if we got a couple more thumbs up. That would be really, really. I always like to have an equal number of thumbs ups for people viewing. I think that's usually a nice thing. I ignore the thumbs down because they don't really exist, but I do like the thumbs up. So if you have to leave the room, put a thumbs up and then come back. So if you can do that, that would be really great. And while you're out there, be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you subscribe and hit the notification bell, you're gonna get notified every time I'm gonna do a live chat, which is a really nice thing to know, a really nice thing to have. So, there comes a bunch more thumbs up. We're at 98 now. We were at 60. So see how easy that is? I mean, you just need like another 150 more. Courtney says, hi, Robert. My 5.5-month-old Labradoodle is great most of the time, but has spurts of aggression. We train him with food 3 times a day, training with fetch ball 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Okay, you already asked me this question, and I saw it, and I think I answered it. He's a 5.5-month-old Labradoodle. He's getting excited, right? He has spurts of aggression. There are probably spurts of frustration because it's a Labradoodle. I'm sure it's not an aggressive dog, but you got to go through it. You're going to be going through it for a year. Anybody who's got a question about puppies like this, you're going to be going through this stuff for about a year. Little Ninja, thank you for the super chat. That's a very nice chat. And Donald, thank you for your super chat before. That was very, very nice. Tanzania, there we go. Leone says, my 2-year-old mixed breed dog is dead scared of the leash. I had her from a friend at 8 weeks, and she was never treated unkindly. When she sees the leash, she panics. Okay, so that's very interesting. It's very, very strange. And I don't always go to that level of, oh, the dog is scared of the leash because they were abused by it. I don't buy that. I just don't buy it. It can happen, but it's not always the case, but it's the easiest solution that people always draw. So what I would suggest to you here with this is set the leash down on the floor next to the food when the dog goes to eat. Don't even touch it. Put the leash on the bed next to you when the dog sleeps, or put the leash in your hand when you're petting the dog. Go easy. Just keep exposing the dog to the leash over and over and over again. I mean, the fact that you've had her since she was 8 weeks old, and she's 2 now and still scared of the leash. You've gone through this for too long. I don't know how you walk the dog. I don't know how you do anything with this dog, but you got to get the dog through it. You just got to. You just got to hunker down. Okay, here, Little Ninja, $10. Thank you very much for the super chat. Very nice. You happy holidays. And I always say Merry Christmas. I don't do the happy holiday thing. I'm that kind of guy. You know what? I believe when it's a holiday, I'm going to go on a tangent here for a second because it's my show and I can. I believe, I don't believe, okay, I'm Christian, so I say Merry Christmas, and you have to be Christian. Or I'm Jewish, so I say Happy Hanukkah, you have to celebrate Hanukkah. I'm Muslim, and I say, whatever, you have to be. No, it's not that, right? It's a happy day to celebrate. It's a holiday. So when it's Christmas time, I say, and I'm not giving you any crap here, Little Ninja. I really appreciate you because you're a really great person and you've been here forever. I'm just putting this out there that when somebody wishes me a happy holiday, I usually just say, which one, right? I want to know which one, because if you're Jewish and you're saying happy holiday, I want to wish you a happy Hanukkah, which tonight is the first night of Hanukkah. And if you're Christian and you say and you want to hear Merry Christmas, I'm going to tell you Merry Christmas. And if you're a Muslim, I want to wish you happy Ramadan, because I believe we can all get along. Right? I believe all this stuff that's driving us apart is disgusting. It's disgusting, really, really disgusting. So don't be afraid to say Merry Christmas. It's not offensive to somebody if they're Jewish. Don't be afraid to say Happy Hanukkah. It's not offensive to somebody if they're Christian. If they're offended by that, they get deeper problems. But you should not feel afraid to say that. And especially in my club here, it's open holiday season. We celebrate all of them, and I love all of them. So anyway, thank you for that. I'll buy some cookies for the dogs with that. How's that? That's what we're going to do. Keshwar says, is 8 months too late to start training for Schutzhund? The answer is no. If you have a really nice dog, it's a great time to start training your dog and get on it. Send some videos. Albino, okay, you already asked me that question. Okay, I'm going to give you this one, Donna, because I saw the question marks at the end. The question marks should be at the beginning. You have 3 Dogo Argentine, 2 are puppies, 1 is almost 2. My husband and I have different opinions on allowing puppies on the bed when the older one is allowed. I guess asking fairness to the pups. Well, I mean, that's going to be up to you guys. You guys are married. You guys got to figure this stuff out. I can't figure that stuff out for you. But if you got 2 Dogo pups, you got bigger problems than which dog's allowed on the bed. You got some training problems to work through. Good luck with it. 8-month-old German Shepherd puppy is submissive urinating. Okay, already answered that one. I don't know why I'm getting repeats now. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom, so I'm probably going to miss a bunch of you guys. I'm going all the way to the bottom. There you go. Merry Christmas to you, Drum Man. I love it. Okay, I'm going to go up until I see some here. Vic. 7-month-old husky loses attention fairly quickly. Is it her age or the breed? It could be both. Huskies are not notorious for great attention spans of training. They're very playful, very cute dogs, but it could really be both. Really, really could be. Let's see, Robert Parr. And I'm going up now, and then I'm going to come back down, just so you know, because I kind of, it happens. We get way too many. We got 200-something people in here. I want to be fair. Usually I just go random to grab questions. Robert from Scotland, love your vids. My 7-year-old Yorkie won't stop barking at the postman and jumps and aggressively barks at post box. Any advice on how to curb this behavior? Well, what I would do is I would bring a tug with me, and I would get the dog to focus back on me. Make sure you get the dog to see that you're more exciting, but also start to correct the dog at the 7-month age off of that. Go, hey, pay attention to me, look at me, and get the dog back to you. Okay, here's one. Jen says, Hawaii Merry Christmas is just Mele Kaliki Maka. Okay, Mele Kaliki Maka to you. I'm totally saying Merry Christmas to some and others, whatever. I agree with you 100% there, Jen. Okay, Veronica. Serbov. My Mal, 5 months old, knows obedience command, but it will do only when food. Okay, you're going to keep doing food for a long, long, long time, at least a year. Talk about that all the time. Watch my videos. Nilu Hossein says, my dog is super nice with other dogs, but most dogs want to bite him. I cannot isolate him. What should I do? I don't understand what you mean you can't isolate him, right? But you must protect your dog. If your dog is nice with other dogs and other dogs want to bite him, then you need to step in, because your dog is going to either become very fearful or very dominant, and that's not fair to your dog. You need to be very, very good to your dog. I love all the Merry Christmas now. I love it. Mira says, can I correct my German Shepherd for sniffing and heel with e-collar? Yeah, you can, but you need to make sure that you don't build that habit of what I call yo-yoing, which means they go down and up and down, up. They sniff and they get corrected, then they sniff again, they get corrected. Put more motivation into the dog's desire to keep his head up than correction for putting their head down. Think about that one. Okay, I gave you that one. Okay, I'm going to go this one, then I'm going to go back down again. Oldest 15-year-old male is getting frail, blind, deaf. Youngest 1.5-year-old female is starting to pick fights with him a lot. What do I do? Correct that dog. Don't allow her to do that. That's not fair. You have a 15-year-old dog being picked on by a 1.5-year-old? What if you had an 80 or 90-year-old parent being picked on by a 20-year-old nurse who's caretaking him? You'd come down on that person. You need to come down on your dog. You need to tell, this is not acceptable. Teach this dog structure, right? Teach her a leave it command. Teach her a go to your place command, and then enforce those when she's picking on your dog. Not fair. Not fair at all. I'm bouncing around now on questions. So I will try to get to all your questions. I mean, I really try. These are long chats. They're an hour long. They're free. And those of you who complain about the commercials, that's how they get paid for. Any tips for games to play with an older dog? I have a 14-year-old Mud. I don't know what that means. He loves to run and play with toys, but he stops after time. Love the Kong video. I'm glad you like the Kong video. So that's a really good thing to give your dog some, that's a great thing you can do with your dog to get your dog busy eating their meals. What I would do with an older dog, I would take him for nice, gentle, slow walks. And I would play nose games with the dog, right? Scent games, little like find it, whatever kind of scent games you want to do, scent detection type games. That would be super fun for the dog. Okay, randomly going to this one. Hippity. From Canada, my puppy's 3 months old, and I wanted to ask your opinion on the best way to teach bite inhibition. Well, bite inhibition is usually taught by the mother, right? But when they're too rough on other puppies or on the mother's nipples, the dog will learn bite inhibition because they get corrected out of it. You can do something similar. If the dog bites you, grab by the scruff of the neck and just on the side here, and say, hey, no. Stay real calm, right? You don't hit a puppy for that. You don't scold them. You don't do anything. None of that stuff. Just go, hey, knock it off. You can push your hand into the dog's mouth a little bit and go, hey, knock it off. That pressure will usually get them to go, okay, I don't want to do this. If they're nice dogs, if they're hard biting dogs, it could be a bigger problem. Let's see. I'm really just going random here. Okay, I'm not going to try to say it, Veni something. Romania, my 2.5-year-old stray female is usually very playful and friendly with dogs, but some days she tenses up and if close, starts growling and scaring them if small. Why? What should I do? Well, the dog is becoming probably overwhelmed. There's too much pressure on the dog. So I would get the dog to really understand cutoff signals. And if the dog is getting into that mode, then just pull the dog away. Hey, come here. Teach the dog that you can pull her away. And if the dog then gets into that situation later, the dog will learn to move away from that situation on her own. But watch the dog. I have 2 boxers. I'm starting to train focus healing with them. I think that's great. You should. Shinji says, greetings from the Netherlands. How to introduce an 8-week-old puppy, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, to an older dog, 4-year-old Shiba Inu Corgi mix, who's usually aggressive to other dogs. I mean, introducing a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, to a dog that's aggressive, if they have a negative experience, then you're going to create a problem in that Staffy, right? If the Corgi, Shiba Inu Corgi, starts to show aggressive behavior towards your Staffy will pick up and it will become aggressive. So I would suggest you keep them apart, correct your adult dog, keep a very solid structured obedience, and just make sure that there's no bad experiences. You're gonna have 2 dogs fighting and you don't really, really want that. And again, I'm bouncing through this like a wild boar, just trying to get to the different questions. Because only 161 thumbs up, 240 people. I would love to see more thumbs up. Gordo says, that looks like Gordon Ramsay. Janice got me watching cooking shows. That's why I know that. I started to scent train with microfiber cloths. Is there a better alternative? Also, how would advise on washing? Do I use washing powder or still scent be too strong? So people always get into this thing on scent, like, oh, I got to clean my articles with alcohol. I've never cleaned my articles with anything. I just leave them out, and that's it. You can wipe them down after the dog plays with them with a damp cloth, but you don't need to, anybody who thinks you need to over clean things for the dog doesn't know a lot about scent training. Dogs can find, an ounce of Coke in 5 pounds of coffee. They have a very distinct nose. They can differentiate. So be sure, don't overthink this, is all I can say to you. Wash it, whatever. Just, everything, if you're doing it with microfiber cloths, which I like doing it with cloths, and handkerchiefs, napkins, whatever, just make sure you wash everything together. That's it. Let's see, here's one. Sid, my dog jumps on guests when they come home. She never jumps on us. How would you correct that? More than likely the guests are saying hi to her. It's something new. They get very excited. So what I would suggest doing in this kind of situation is have the dog in a crate or put the dog on a place command and tell the people to ignore the dog for a while. When the dog's kind of calmed down from the excitement, just let the dog go. Tell people not to talk to the dog until the dog's calm. That's going to fix that. You asked this question here a bunch of times. Tips for black German Shepherd. You're not asking me a question. It's a German Shepherd. You need to train the dog. That's all I can say. Keshwar, you feed raw. How do you treat? You know what? Go look on my page and you'll see that Visionary Pet Food makes a really, really good. I don't have it in front of me here. It's a dehydrated raw treat. It's the best thing I've seen. I mean, the ingredients, I've eaten them myself. No sugar, no carbohydrates, super, super good. It's expensive, but it's what I would do. Cactus Carlos says, how can start, I know you mean start teaching my German Shepherd to bark on command. I know I'm lucky she doesn't bark unless necessary. The way we teach dogs to bark on command is we frustrate them with something, right? We would take their favorite toy and put it like up in a tree, and we show them where it is, and show it, or hide it behind your back. And when the dog gets frustrated, the dog will give you a quick yap. I had a little ball dropper machine that's really great, and I would put a ball in it, and I would point to it and show him the ball and put the ball in there. Goofy, I mean. And I would point to it, and when he barked, the ball would drop out of it, and then that's eventually how I would get him to bark on command. Let's see. Haley, having trouble with my obedience with my 2 German Shepherds. They have prey drive and go after my cats constantly. You might have to get rid of the cats or the German Shepherd. And once you get into this, it's super hard. I mean, dogs and cats in this kind of situation, high prey drive dogs, not like it's a little lab or a golden, it's a high prey drive German Shepherd, you might have problems. There's no solving that once it gets to that level. You really need to hunker down and do some solid obedience, otherwise it's not going to work. Julian says, rescued a pit and worked on truss. Her nails are insane long and won't let me trim. She bit my hand once, got a muzzle, but she still screams and twists in agony. I don't want to traumatize her more. Take her to a vet. Have somebody else do it, because you don't want. If the dog negatively associates a vet or a groomer doing it, it's one thing. If they negatively associate you doing it, it's a problem. But you're going to need to work on getting the dog used to you handling the dog, and trimming the nails has to be part of it. I don't have good German Shepherd breeders in my country, so what is the best online or top 3 best breeders sell German Shepherd working line at Chips? I can't recommend breeders like that. I'm sorry, I really can't do it. Okay, you are encouraging spamming questions. Sad. I have no idea what that means. But thanks for the feedback. AC Robbie, my 17-month-old German Shepherd used to come when called. Now I went back to treats sometimes. She doesn't listen. I bring her to me by collar and she bites my hand hard. Merry Christmas. Is that a question? You know, if she's not coming to you, why would you go back to treats, right? You're only teaching her then to come for treats. If you should have her on a long line. If she's not consistently coming, you should have her on a long line and be able to pull her to you and reward her abundantly there with a toy or something. But you need to make sure that you don't set her up for failure. Like if she's not coming at 17 months old, she knows it, she needs to be corrected, and then you need to put abundant rewards on it. Okay, Christian says, thanks for your help in doing Q&A. I have a 7-month-old Malin one. He seems to have a fear issue, especially with people. How can I make him better and avoid biting someone in the future? You can build his confidence by doing a lot of training around people where the dog only focuses on you, that people don't interact with him, because he's obviously stressed by people. Just get him to focus on you. Focusing on you solves all those problems. I got 5 more minutes left. Actually, I only got no time left, but I'm going to take one more question here. Maybe 2. John Doe says, that's a great picture. Is that I'm not going to say, it looks like Fred Sanford. It looks like Red Fox. I'm a big fan of Red Fox. 15-month-old Pressa off leash. He only listens with distractions. He only listens with distractions when he has an e-collar on, even though I don't stim him. No collar or flat, doesn't listen after 3 or 4 commands. Well, then you just need to keep that e-collar on for a longer duration so the dog becomes hardwired to listening. Okay, last question right here. Let's see. By the way, I'd love to, 266 people, there's a lot of people in here. I'd love to see a 266 thumbs up, it'd be really great. 707 says, hey, Robert, me and my family are going on vacation. We're planning on bringing our 1-year-old German Shepherd. How can we make him feel at home at the hotel so that he does not destroy anything? Well, what I would do is start crate training him at home, keep him in a crate at the hotel for safety more so than for destruction. Because if he runs out the door, you're in a strange town, you've got a problem. Crate train the dog before you go on vacation. Okay, I'm going to do this one last one because I think you're Army. I have a 1-year-old Mal, love playing with the herding ball. Do you have any recommendation of other toys you can play with when he's alone? Kongs. That's it. I wouldn't trust him with too much. I'd get a really, really big Kong, and I would get him to really enjoy the Kong. So listen, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for all your, your questions here on the all black German Shepherds are stubborn. It's something in the DNA that the black dogs, the black Shepherds are generally the more dominant ones. Like the white ones are the more nervy ones. It's just, for some reason, it runs in those lines. I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. I thank you so much for tuning in. It was a great, great, great chat. I'll try to see if we can get another one of these out before Christmas. I think it'd be really fun. I love doing the chats. One of my favorite things to do is to connect with you guys, tell you about how great the training is to do for your dog, how important it is to train your dog, how to form this amazing bond with your dog. I think it's critical, critical, critical that you do that with your dog. Don't be afraid to train and have fun and make an experience irrelevant to the age of your dog. Doesn't matter if the dog's 8 weeks old or 18 years old. Interact with your dog. Give that dog that communication, that relationship, because it's going to make your life with your dog better. Again, thank you so, so much. If you haven't joined robertcabral.com, run over, go to robertcabral.com. You'll see that there's so many in-depth online dog training lessons. You know, it's a lot of people never, use dog trainers again once they sign up for my site. Some people still work hand in hand with the trainer and kind of get best information out of both people. Either way, it's worth the money. It's a great investment in your dog. There's, every week there's 2 different video Q&A podcasts. Every week there's a new member lesson. So tons of stuff going on. Also, be sure to check out the podcast. Podcast is broadcast here on YouTube. At least I think it's once a week or so. It doesn't go up the same day, but it goes up on Apple, iTunes, and Google Play, and a bunch of others on Thursdays, generally Thursdays or Fridays. So anyway, I'm going to sign out, guys. I wish you a happy first night of Hanukkah for you who are Jewish. Merry Christmas for those of you who are Christian who are coming up. And thanks so much for being here. I'll see you real soon. Take care.